Welcome to Hong Kong Confidential. I'm Jules Hannaford and I'm your host. I'm an Australian woman and I've been living in Hong Kong for many years. I'm a mother, a teacher, an author, and I want to share my wisdom and the wisdom of others with you. Thanks for joining me and I hope you enjoy the show. Today I'm here with Pashmina Pash, and she's the author of The Cappuccino Chronicles and Mocha Madness. Hi, Pashmina. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Jules. Thank you so much for having me on your platform. I'm so flattered.
I'm really, really pleased to have you here, and thanks so much for dropping by when you're in Hong Kong from Bangkok, yeah?
Yes,
Do you
correct.
live in Bangkok?
Yeah, I live in Bangkok now, but I grew up in Hong Kong, so I consider myself a Hong Kong girl.
Oh, awesome. What are the origins of your name, Pashmina?
Actually, I was named by my grandfather, who has a connection to his Kashmiri ancestors. So it's more of like a Kashmiri name. And as we know, Pashmina is the name of a shawl. And when I was born, he was just enamored by this name. And at first I was a bit embarrassed because if you Google Pashmina, you see goat hair. But I just learned to fall in love with the name and the sound of it and the tone of it. And I actually think it's quite unique. So my grandfather was the first person that gave me this uniqueness because of my name.
It's a beautiful name. And when I heard it, I was like, oh, that's so unique and interesting. Did you like it as a teenager?
It didn't really affect me as much as a teenager as when I was in primary school. I mean, kids didn't really know what Pashmina was. And I was a bit of a tomboy as well. And the softness of the name didn't really suit me. But as I grew up and I was in high school, it became quite sexy. So I learned to fall in love with my name very, very quickly.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
And you're married and you've got 3 children, is that right?
I've got two children, yeah.
Okay, so you're married and you've got 2 children?
Yes, and I have a dog. He's my son. So yes, I have 3 children.
So you do have 3 children. And Pashmina, I believe you had a daughter who was born prematurely 14 years ago. Tell me about that experience.
That was one of the most traumatic experiences of my life. I learned about gratitude, I learned about mindset, and I learned about the power of now. She was born at 945 grams, so severely premature. She was 3 months in the incubator. So 26 weeks was when I gave birth to her.
26 weeks?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So she had another, 10 more weeks to go, 10, 12 more weeks to go. And when she was born, the doctors had told me, you have to take it day by day. And she might not be able to walk or talk or hear, or she'd be blind. And I refused to believe it. I mean, some people at that time, especially my family, thought that I was completely disillusioned and that I was going through severe postpartum and I had to listen to the authorities who were the doctors. But something inside me just honed in on who we really are. What was our source? And if there was a source, whether it's the universe or God or whoever, this was the time that I needed that energy most in my life.
It wasn't about you being in denial. It was just you having faith that she was fine.
You could look at it that way. I don't want to say that I was in denial, but the whole community said she's in denial.
Right.
Because I would go to the hospital at 5 o'clock in the morning and not leave till 11. And she had to have direct blood transfusions from my husband because my blood and her blood don't match. Plus, I had to breastfeed her through her nose, which was horrible, through a tube because she had no sucking mechanism. She had no feet. She had no hands. Like they were all webbed. She was 26 weeks. And she looked like a little rat, actually.
Did she?
Yeah, like her skin was translucent. You could see the veins and the blood running through her. I mean, she didn't look like a human. She pretty much looked like an alien.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you take me back to going into labour and realising that you were going to have your baby early? What happened?
I was at my mother's house actually visiting for my sister's wedding. And it was like 3 days before I actually gave birth. I was supposed to come back to Hong Kong and I was setting up the nursery with my husband and we're all good to go, ready to go and, get ready for the next trimester, which is another 3 months. And suddenly I woke up in the middle of the night and I had severe back pain. And my brother-in-law and my sister, my youngest sister, were there. And I said, I have back pain. So, and I can't sleep. And my brother-in-law and my sister sat at the foot of my bed and massaged my feet, not knowing that I was actually going into labor. And the next morning I woke up and that was it. My water broke. And I'm so silly. It was my first kid. And I woke up and I'm like, Mom, I'm going to the hairdresser to wash my hair. But I think I peed in my pants. She's like, what? No, that's not pee. And, that's your, what? And she was confused. I mean, it was like a whirlwind. And before I knew it, I was checked into the hospital. I was, told that I should get a DNC because the baby was so small. And then I went wild. And they put so much like medicine in me to keep me quiet.
What do you mean you went wild?
I was
like hysterical?
Not hysterical, but like crying and like saying that this is not happening and the doctors are really silly. I did pee in my pants and they're like, no, you didn't.
That was your water.
Yeah. And, you have to listen to professionals. And they had to inject me with morphine so that I'd keep quiet. Because I was like, I want to go home. I need to wash my hair. I don't believe this is happening. And when I woke up, they asked my husband and my mother if I would sign the consent form for a DNC. And I said, no way, because I can feel this baby inside me. I can feel her kicking. And they're like, well, we don't know what are her chances of survival. So there was a big family discussion. I come from a huge family. And at the end of the day, it was my decision. And I said, well, if she comes out alive, perfect. And if she doesn't, it doesn't matter. And my mother remembers me saying before they gave me some more morphine, please don't throw my baby in the garbage can. Just whatever you do, just don't throw her away. And then the rest is history. I actually gave birth to her, normally with no epidural, no cesarean, because it was a critical situation. And when she came out, one of her eyes were closed and she went, wow, and I was like, there, she's here. But that wasn't the end. That was just the beginning of the turmoil of having to live day by day and actually changing my mindset to be a little bit calmer, to make sure that this child was born from a miracle.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it, with a baby in NICU because you've got to be there as much as you can all day, but then you can't stay overnight and you have to put your whole life on hold, don't you?
Yes.
How long did this process go on for?
Let's say 2 years because, she was in the incubator for 3 months, but she had 2 eye surgeries because they said she was going to be blind. She wears bifocals now, like a grandma, but she can still see. And the issue was that because she was so tiny, when she was 2 years old, she looked like a 12-month-old. So every day was like doing something for her to make sure that she could learn words or hold something or walk or kick a ball. So the first 2 years of her life were actually very fragile for both of us. And me really, again, exercising mindset and patience to build this child.
And you had to try to help her develop and catch up because she was born so premature.
Yes, she was tiny.
And how stressful was this on your relationship and your life in general?
I didn't really speak to anyone that much. People thought I was crazy. I had a lot of beautiful family members. My mother and my husband were my rocks. They knew what I was going through. They could feel what I was going through. And they always tried to not skirt around the situation because the doctors would pull them aside and say, you have to tell her to take it day by day. Because if there would be one day that I came to the NICU and she might not be there, and how would I handle that? So I think they had made preparations in the beginning just in case I needed to see a psychologist or counselor or something. And the doctors and the nurses had talked to them about loss and bereavement, and I wasn't listening.
Right.
I just blocked every single outside noise away. And I blocked people out of my life. I didn't want to hear their opinion. I didn't care about their opinion. All that matters is that I was connected to some kind of source, whether we call it universe or God or whatever, that this was my project. And this was a project that I needed the most support in my life.
You isolated yourself and just focused on your baby.
Yes.
What impact did that have on your relationships with your parents, siblings, and your husband and stuff like that?
I'm sure they thought I was crazy, but they would never admit it. I'm a very vibrant woman. When I was growing up, I was very popular and in school, and I had a lot of friends. So for me to become a recluse, it almost showed like an addictive side of my personality, that I was addicted to making this child whole. I was addicted to proving everyone wrong. And that side of it caused a little bit of friction between friends and family, but I still pursued and I went for it. I didn't care.
Right. And during this time, is this when you started journaling and writing a diary?
Actually, I'm stubborn as well. I was actually put on bed rest for 2 months.
Why?
Because the pregnancy was a bit difficult. I started bleeding in the beginning, and I joke with my husband because he's Brazilian, and we joke all the time that maybe I wasn't a good host or something like that from two different sides of the planet. But when I was put on bed rest, I was feeling really lonely as well. So actually the whole pregnancy was very lonely. From the time that I conceived to the time that I gave birth until a couple of years later, it was like 3 years of like, there were a lot of support, not to say that there wasn't, but I just felt like inside myself was something that was not connecting. So during my times on bed rest, that I was supposed to be on bed rest, I started to write because I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't go out. I couldn't see my friends. I mean, even going to make a meal in the kitchen was a chore. You know, I had to hire somebody to help me do all these things that I'm so used to doing myself. And I did become a little bit frustrated. So that's when I started the journaling and the power of writing and the power of writing to be a healer. So I kind of healed myself through writing as well.
Oh, that's lovely. It can be such a mindful experience that's so good for your well-being, can't it?
Yes. It was almost like catharsis as well, like just to say these words and feel a connection to all these characters who are all made up. And
well, that's what I was going to ask you. Were you journaling about your experience, or were you writing stories about characters? Was it linked to your life in any way, or was it completely from your imagination?
It was from my imagination, but of course there's bits and pieces where you are the author. So there's bits and pieces of you have to be in there. Some people might think it's obvious. I really wish that I could be like one of the characters in the book. But like I say in most of my interviews, that song by Shaka Khan, I'm Every Woman, I think that I identify with every single one of them, and to the rudest, to the sincerest, because we are women. And in this drama of life, we have so many roles to play.
And we're so multifaceted.
Yeah,
aren't we? Yeah, that's so true. So there's a little bit of you in everything.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Did you at this time think, I'm just doing this for healing and to pass the time? Or did you think, perhaps I'll write a book?
My dream was to always write a book when I was a kid. I read my first novel when I was 6. So I always had a dream that I wanted to be an author. And as a young girl, you never fully feel completely connected with your dream unless you get validation. And this was my biggest problem, always seeking outside validation. And
for your career or in general?
In general. I think that's just part of my culture, that it's just always been inbred, that you seek validation to get confirmation, to get where you need to get to. So actually, when my daughter was born, because I stopped seeking validation from people, it became a stronger force in me to believe in me and what I can do as a woman.
So did you start to put yourself first?
Yeah.
Oh, well, your daughter and yourself first.
Yeah. And I stopped listening to people from the outside, because at the end of the day, you come here alone. Yeah. And my daughter taught me that when she was born premature, that it was so easy for her to be taken away from me. So you start to live for the moment, and you start to live for you and your dreams and your mindset, not somebody else's mindset.
What were the negative attitudes that you were getting about being a writer before you made this change in your mindset?
Oh, who does she think she is? Who's she writing about? Does she think that she's going to be famous? Why is she writing all these things? And I even have people think that I'm writing about them. It's so strange.
So your friends are reading the books looking for them.
Yeah, looking for them.
Me. That's me.
And I have complete strangers who identify, and I don't even know them. They're like, you just wrote my story. And I'm like, I don't even know who you are. So this was a beautiful experience to feel that I'm connected to so many different women. And women were the link that were helping me to make them feel more empowered. And I mean, all of us have a story to tell. You know, it's in our DNA. I mean, one of my greatest mentors, my greatest writing mentors, her workshop is about being able to tell a story. And everyone has one.
Yeah. Did you do some writing workshops to build your skills?
Yeah,
was this before or after you started journaling?
I went to a few. I mean, in university, I studied creative writing. My background is in theater arts. I've written a number of scripts. I went to a few workshops, and they were a bit pedantic and not exactly what I wanted as a writer. What I wanted as a writer was it to be easy reading, so that when the reader is engrossed in my book, they can imagine the characters for themselves. I don't give too much detail about setting and environment. I give you a little bit, but then I want you to soar with your own imagination and put yourself in that position of each of those characters. So when the characters are talking, you feel maybe you're part of a script, that you're reading a script. So you are allowed to imagine who these characters are.
And you can almost step into the role of the character you have the most connection with, yeah?
Exactly.
Oh, how fantastic. I'm looking forward to reading your book.
Wonderful.
I really am.
Thank you.
How did all of this, the journaling, the premature baby, the bed rest, all of that stress over those first couple of years, how did that affect you as a woman and as a mother?
Oh, it made me so much stronger. I realized now that I had a daughter, I needed to make her powerful in the world with whatever story that she had. And she was only 2. And she wasn't blind. She's not deaf. She can walk. She's actually a scholar. And a nerd, a beautiful nerd.
Oh, she is. Oh, that's gorgeous.
Which is great, taller than me. And,
I've seen a photo. She's gorgeous, isn't she? Very big, strong, tall, beautiful girl.
Yeah.
And young woman.
Yes. And when my second daughter came around, that's a different story. She didn't want to come out of me. Oh. She was in me for almost 38 weeks, and I suffered heart failure.
What?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
What happened there?
I had too much water in my lungs. My diet was horrible. I didn't really look after myself too much. Again, my husband said, "See, you're not a good host." And we were like making fun of each other.
That's why you stopped at 2.
Yeah.
It's like we're done.
Done. And I got my dog, Goopsie. And when my second daughter came around 5 years later, the empowerment was grand. It was on a scale that I knew that I had to make these biracial children strong in any community that they live in. And if I couldn't empower myself, how the heck am I going to empower my girls? And when I look at them now, they're pretty strong.
So you want to lead by example.
Yes, and I think that's important. And also as a teacher for 16 years, I've empowered so many of my students, and they've empowered me back. So if I'm going to be a leader, I better do it properly.
Did you have any fears raising biracial children?
Oh, yes. There's been quite a bit of racism that's been going on. I mean, I married my husband 20 years ago, and that was taboo.
How was that received in can you tell me, what is your community?
It's an Indian community.
Right, okay.
I'm Sindhi. And the Sindhi community, they're great, they're wonderful, but there's also a side that doesn't like to mix. It's part of almost kind of like an elitist kind of thing where you marry your own kind. And like I said, I've always been a rebel. I've always been somebody that has been vivacious and, and wanted to do things that I felt that I needed to do. So when I dated him in secret for 10 years in Hong Kong.
10 years?
Yeah. It was very sexy and exciting.
Very exciting.
But
wow.
he begs to differ. He says it wasn't secret. Everyone in your community knew. Of course they did. Hong Kong is tiny.
Yeah.
So I'd get little pockets of gossip everywhere happening. My mom would come home and be like, is this true? And I'd be like, well, we're friends. And that was it. And I just wanted to close the conversation. But when I married him, it was a big deal for a lot of people.
Did everyone come to the wedding?
No, we had a very small wedding. And he's from a very, very, very different background than me. He grew up in Brazil in a very poor, situation. And I'm from a wealthy family. So it was like opposites attracting. But what we fell in love with each other was the truth about each other. And I did marry my best friend, and I had 2 children with him. And 20 years down the line, there are those same family members or outside community members who can't believe that we've been together for that long. And again, not listening to the outside voices, we created 2 beautiful children.
When you were kind of rejected, or that your relationship was rejected by your family, that was kind of the start of you finding your independence and your own voice.
Yes.
And has your husband and your relationship been accepted along the way, or is it still unaccepted?
No, it's much better now. And I really don't care who accepts it or who doesn't.
Good for you. That's how it should be.
And that's the thing. As long as like my unit, my husband and my kids and the four of us are together and we communicate, we are forced to be reckoned with. Because there's not a lot of Indian Sindhi women who are married to black guys. This is a big taboo. And somebody who lived a very impoverished life, but a very ambitious man. He used to be a diver at Ocean Park.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when I look back, you know, people say when you look back on your life in a telescope, hindsight, it's like a rear view mirror. You think, oh my God, how did I get there? And now that I'm there, I'm like, well, it was easy. You just have to be who you want to be and do what you want to do. And there are going to be people who are going to cut you down. I'm not going to say that I've been strong, completely strong through the whole thing. But my mother has been somebody who's been an amazing support system for me and my husband and my kids. And, you know, she adores my kids.
That's lovely.
And I think maybe, you know, like she's an Indian grandma and my stepfather's Chinese and she's got two biracial children. So when they're walking out on the street, she feels empowered, like a Benetton ad.
Oh, that's sweet.
There's an Indian and a Chinese and like two black girls, and they're like, Grandma, Grandpa. So that aspect of it, you know, she brings humor and joy and love into that.
Yeah. Raising your children in Hong Kong and them being biracial must have been better in a way than if you were in India, say, because we're such a multicultural society here in Hong Kong.
Yeah. I haven't actually raised my children here in Hong Kong. We decided to stay in Bangkok because the medical system was excellent for my daughter at the time.
Oh, so have you been in Bangkok since she was born?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
And it was very difficult because, like I said, I'm a Hong Kong girl. Yeah. And I would fight with the doctors and say, Medivac her back. And they're like, we don't know if she's going to survive the trip. I'm like, do something. You know, put 10 nurses on the helicopter. I don't care. And they're like, listen, it's not about how many people are around her. We just have to look after her safety. So for the first 2 years, I was pretty much stuck there and itching to come back here. And now I don't really want to bring them back here because we have so much more over there for them. They go to international schools. They're very well received over there. They have a great friend and family support system there. So it's wonderful.
Do they experience any judgment or racism?
Yeah, a little bit. And we teach them how to deal with it, that, you know, ignorance is a beast and don't fall into people's trap. And just know that you're human at the end of the day. That's it. You know, it doesn't matter who you are. You're human. And I think them seeing that my stepdad is Chinese and their dad is Black and Brazilian and their mom's Indian, they kind of feel more comfortable with that.
Because they're surrounded by that multicultural melting pot.
Yes.
Yeah, which is really nice.
Yeah.
It's great for them, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it.
What about religion? Was that a problem in all of this?
I grew up Hindu. My husband grew up in a very strict Catholic home where they went to church. And, you know, my mother-in-law is very Christian now. I'm not sure what is really the difference. I mean, they don't really partake in religion so much. So we teach our children about the source or about the universe and whatever religion they decide to choose. And we live in Thailand, which is a Buddhist country. So take your pick as long as you're connected to the source and you know that there's something grander out there that's helping you move in the world. Doesn't matter what it is. Just know that there's something out there.
Just being spiritual.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That's so beautiful. Oh, my God. Some parenting 101, folks. What was some of the negative self-talk that you had to deal with during the early days of your daughter being unwell and you starting to write?
Is it my fault she's premature? Did I marry wrong? Did I do something bad in my last life? Is this something karmic? How do I change the cycle of life? Am I ever going to get anywhere? Are all these people going to stop talking about me? Who do I listen to? Who do I reach out to? And like I said, thank God for my mother. She really helped. I mean, she would get frustrated at me a lot, like, you know, snap out of it. But, you know, the negative self-talk is what damages you. if you start to let the outside noises infiltrate you and you start to self-talk in a negative way, there's no healing process. The healing process never, ever begins. So I had to cut it. I had to stop talking bad to myself and start to love myself.
How did you do that? Everyone is going to be listening with their ear up to the waiting for the answer. How do you stop that negative self-talk and how do you love yourself? Because I think so many people aren't able to make that transition, even though they logically know that's what they need to do.
You have to let go. And that's one of the things that can be so difficult. Let go of the past and forgive yourself. Forgiveness is the key. And if you forgive yourself for all the past hurts and all the past that you've done, the future can only be bright. You have to go forward without those past nonsense talk and nonsense people and change your frequency. And just, like a radio. If you turn on a radio and it's like, change it. Why are you going to damage your ears? Listen to some beautiful divine melody or something like this. And that's what I did. And I started to read a lot more. I started to write a lot more. The writing just poured out of me, whether it was journaling or whether it was for the Cappuccino Chronicles, whether it was poetry, lyrics, whatever. That kind of healing, because when you hear the self-talk, getting a piece of paper out and writing. And what I learned to do as well is to write a gratitude list every single day.
It's a great idea, isn't it?
Yeah. 10 things that I'm grateful for. Even if people wake up on the wrong side of the bed. I was a teacher for 16 years at an establishment, 14 years at the same establishment. Of course, you wake up at 5:30 and you're grouchy, so the first thing I would do is write a gratitude list. Even if it was grateful for my ear.
Yeah.
Or, grateful that I can smell with my nose. And suddenly something happens where you do feel better. And I teach my children that, and they write a gratitude list almost every single day as well.
Yeah, that's something that I do when I'm teaching as well. It's a really good thing to make people feel better about themselves if they look at what they're grateful for.
Yes, because you can look at all the negative. It's so easy. Why don't we change the mind, shift it? And instead of looking at all the bad things, look at all the great things that could actually happen to you.
Did you use this virtually as a self-therapy,
Yes.
self-help, the writing and the gratitude list and all of that?
Yes.
Did you have therapy as well, counselling or psychologist or anything like that?
They tried at the hospital, and I was adamant that I was right and they were wrong, and I was stubborn, and and I was scared they're going to inject me with morphine again. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try and be as calm as I can. Like I said, my mom and my husband were my greatest counselors, and they still are. One is on the right, one's on the left. They are my rocks. But one lady that really stands out at the hospital was the head nurse. She was the midwife. And, I would tell her I was so tired, I can't pump milk out and stuff like this. And she'd be like, well, get on it, And soon she'd get softer with me, and she would sit with me every day. She was the only friend I had. She'd be like, oh, you're here again? I'm like, yeah. And we'd sit and talk. And she would tell me that, things would happen day by day. And that's what it is. You have to believe in the power of now.
And you have to have hope.
Yes.
Don't you?
Yes.
That's so important.
And the present moment, and I would, take my gown off and I put my baby skin to skin. And she's like, doesn't that feel great? And I'm like, but what about tomorrow? She's like, we're not even there yet.
Yeah.
You can hear her breathing and smell her and touch her. Understand the power of now.
So she really got you to live in the moment.
Yeah.
Which is cool. And that's, there's so many little fantastic snippets of advice in what you're saying to us. Thank you so
You're
much.
so welcome.
It's really brilliant.
Thank you.
How did you find the strength that you needed in the tough times? You talked about the writing, you talked about the support from your husband and your family, you've talked about this nurse and, really changing your mindset. Was there anything else that you used or that you can recommend, or do you feel like you've covered it all?
I think meditation as well, and really being alone. Like, not lonely, because there's a difference. Like, really being alone and asking yourself, what is this? What is the next step? As well as living in the power of now, but what is it about me that I can shift? And was a shift in mindset. That's it. You just have to shift the frequency of who you hang out with, who you are with, who you are, what you do. Go for it. And if you don't like it, change it.
Don't you think it's really amazing that when you have a baby, you really do understand the power of your mind? I didn't really understand that until I gave birth in the lounge room at home. I had a home birth with my daughter.
Wow.
And no drugs and it really just really made me understand the power of the mind and how you can shift your mindset and how you can have control over your thoughts. And it's really interesting. We can take that forward, can't we, once we've had that experience?
Yeah. And when you said the power of your thoughts, every thought is an action. And when you think of something and you manifest that, whether it's negative or positive, it will come true. And my mindset for my daughter was, she will survive. That's it. That was my thought process. It didn't matter how or when or who or what. This was it. And this is what I was going to do.
So that really comes down to the power of positive thinking, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But also, there's also this school of thought that something happens and then you make your story out of it. So we can all choose how we respond to what's going on around us.
Yeah.
And that's so true as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, you could have chosen to give up and have a D&C and that was the end.
Yeah.
Or you chose to believe that your baby was going to be fine and fine.
Yeah.
And now you've got a healthy 14-year-old, big, tall, beautiful daughter.
Yeah, and a 5-year-old who's just my spitfire, She's like my subconscious mind sometimes. And they're both amazing human beings. And I'm so blessed to have both of them because they both gave me different experiences as a parent. And they both gave me hope and drive and wanting to do more and more so that they could get more and more.
I fully understand that. And also there's the thing of unconditional love, isn't there?
Yes.
Like when you have a child, you just really do understand what true love really means.
Absolutely.
Because it is unconditional with your children.
Definitely.
And we're very privileged to have that experience, aren't we?
Yes, definitely.
Did you have fears having your second baby based on what went wrong in the first one?
Oh, yeah.
What was that like?
I didn't want to get pregnant so soon because I was afraid that the same thing was going to happen. And I knew that if that happened again, something would die inside of me that I would have to go through the whole process again. So we waited until the eldest was 5. And I was in a much better place and I was watching this child grow and she could talk and she was, excelling in kindergarten. And I'm like, really? And she went to school when she was 3 and could write her name at 3. And I'm like, okay, I think we can do this. And actually, when she turned 3, my husband and I tried, but it didn't happen. So we just left it up to the source or whatever to decide when this second child would choose us. Because my mother would always say, children choose their parents.
I've heard that too before. And that's a lovely concept, isn't it? Yeah.
And on every birthday, the first thing that I say to them before I say happy birthday is, thank you for choosing me.
Oh, get me a tissue. That's so lovely. Oh, my God. Uh-oh. Right, now I can't see my notes. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh. Okay. Obviously, this life event triggered your passion for writing. You mentioned that you loved writing and reading when you were younger as well.
Yeah.
But is this when you kind of knew that you wanted to write a book?
Yeah. Like I said, I read my first novel when I was 6. And then after that, my parents were quite shocked. I would go to Swindon bookstore over here in Chimsard every weekend. That was I didn't want to go anywhere but to the bookstore. And I'd get the Enid Blyton, the whole series.
Oh, them too. Oh my God, we're giving away our age now.
And then I'd get Judy Blume and get like 3 of them.
Yeah.
And like within the month, I would have read like 8 books. And my mom's like, wow, this is something else. So my vocabulary was very, advanced for a young child. And I knew somehow I had a vision when I think I was about 9 or 10 years old that my name was going to be on the front of a book.
Oh, spooky. I love that. That's so cool.
And of course,
you?
It was it was just, like a thought, but it was such a whimsical, it was never really concrete.
Yes.
So when I think about that now at my age and I think, oh God, I did see it. It's true. A thought is an action. Be careful what you think about.
Yeah, we can create our own universe,
yes,
can't we? So that's
can.
cool. So from your journaling, you obviously at some point decided to write a book. Tell me a little bit about that process.
I'm a teacher for 14 years, like I said, at the same establishment. And I love this school that I worked for in Thailand. And while I was I saw my first graders graduate. So I saw them grow and grow and grow, not just physically, but mentally as well. And I love my job because I was the head of the visual and performing arts department. So I left at the peak of my career.
Sorry, I've got to stop you. How was that to actually leave and to go and write?
Scary.
I really admire you for doing that. Tell me a little bit about that process and how you were able to take that leap of faith.
It's risk. If you don't take the risk, no one's going to take it for you. And if you take that risk for yourself, whether you fail or whether you succeed, it's okay, because the road to success is not straight. There are going to be, paths that, windy ways and stuff like that, but you have to go with the punches and keep moving, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. And the premature birth taught me that. If you don't keep moving and you're stuck in the same place, then, you're going to bang into a wall.
And was there an element of, well, if I can get through that, I can get through anything.
Yes.
So I'll just go for it.
Yeah, exactly. And once I took the risk and I was putting my name out there and putting print out there for the whole world to see and getting away from that comfort zone and knowing that I was leaving at the peak of my career scared me to death.
I bet. I admire you for making that choice. That's amazing. And especially having 2 children.
Yeah. And my husband, again, my rock, was like, go for it. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, do something different. If this is what you feel that you want to do it. And so I did. And my mother was another cheerleader. She's like, go for it. You've always said that you wanted to do it, so do it.
And did you miss the children, the teaching, you're having colleagues and working in teams? Because writing is a very solitary job, isn't it?
I mean, when I left, I had 7 people working under me. So that team and going to my office every day and feeling like a family, because that was my second home. 5,
I totally get it.
Yeah. 7 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That's your whole day, your whole life, just weekends with your family. And, I felt like I had a bit of separation anxiety, actually, but they were my biggest supporters as well. They're like, go for it. And I knew that after this level of head of visual and performing arts, the next step was admin within the school system. And this was never my dream. I never wanted to be an administrator. I always wanted to be in the classroom and move around in the classroom on a stage and sing and do script work. So the thought of being around lots of adults every day without seeing the kids or teaching them or inspiring them, that scared me a little bit as well. So it was like a fork in the road for me. And I went for what was unknown rather than going for what was planned out for me.
Good for you. Good for you. I'm so impressed. I don't know if I could do it. Was it difficult to believe in yourself all the time through this transition?
This is the thing that I say to my kids and I say to my students. If you believe in something and somebody says, oh, that's rubbish, don't listen. Because if you go for it and the transition seems difficult, if you stop, you never know what's ahead. Of course you're going to stop. And there were so many people that were holding me back. You're making the wrong decision. Who's going to buy your book? You're just an Indian girl from Hong Kong. People are going to gossip about you. And I thought, this is bringing me back to when I first met my husband. And I thought, well, if I listened to them, I wouldn't have married him. I wouldn't have had my kids. I wouldn't be where I am today. So again, just blocking it off and going for it. And there have been times where I've stumbled. It's only been 1 semester since I left my other job, and I've written 2 books, and the 3rd one in the trilogy is underway.
What? Say that again.
It's only been 1 semester.
What?
Yeah, since I left my job.
Oh my God, I thought we were talking years.
No.
What, you only left a semester ago and you've written 2 books?
Yeah.
And what?
And the 3rd one.
Okay, you are an overachiever.
What? Yeah, I think the risk taking, and sometimes fear can be a good thing because you don't want to fail. So you kind of go and go and go. And when other people see your drive, you suddenly get this force of people who support you. And that's what you need to focus on.
Right, let me get this straight. You had your baby, you did some journaling, you worked as a teacher, you've kind of written all the way along, and then just a semester ago you left your job, and in that time you've written 2 books and the 3rd one is on the way.
Yes.
But you used some of your notes and your diaries and your journaling to put your book together.
Yes.
Right, great. Tell me what your first book is about, The
Okay.
Cappuccino Chronicles.
It's more of like a lot of conversation. It's 4 women from different parts of the world. Some of it's set in Hong Kong because, I mean, I am a Hong Kong girl. And it's set in London and in Paris and different parts of the world. And it's about 4 women who go to this coffee shop called Bazika. And, you know, women, when we meet, you know, we talk about a lot of things. So you get to see some very, very simple spiritual truths that they're going through. And the men in their lives seem to help them with a connection somewhere along the way, whether they're a good guy or a bad guy, because there's also good girl and bad girl, you know. The women are not perfect. And we see their flaws and we see how their connections with people kind of create humor. You know, they'll make you cry. They'll make you laugh out loud. You'll think, oh my God, is that me?
And you know what? I totally believe that because that's what you're doing to me right now. So you mentioned earlier that there's a part of you in all of your characters.
Yeah.
But were these characters based on girlfriends or family members or people that you know, or just randomly out of your imagination?
Some of them are like, there's parts of the Indian mom in there that remind me of like my auntie or something, you know. And even when my mom goes a little bit, you know, Indian up on me, I'm like, Mom. But you kind of like fuse everyone together. It's like a mishmash of everyone. Like my sister said, my middle sister said that she identifies with the Irish character. I'm like, really? She has green eyes and orange hair. She's like, it doesn't matter. I just identify with her somehow. So it's all people mixed up together. I mean, I've lived all over the world. I've lived in London. I've lived in the United States. I've lived in Hong Kong. I now live in Thailand. I visited Brazil. I've been all over the world. So it's a bit of everyone and everything in every culture.
That sounds great. I'm really, really looking forward to reading it.
I can't wait for your feedback.
It's great. How has the book been received by the public?
Well, I was really nervous when I found my publishers. She was helping me to do the marketing on the Western side of the world. And she said, you know, you take care of Asia and we'll take care of that side of the world. And of course, she's been in the business a long time. And when the book was out and selling, I sold a lot of books on Kindle. And she told me I was an international bestseller. I felt like, you know, like when you're on a stage and you can hear like people clapping, but you don't hear it and you feel frozen. It took a while for me to sink in. I was like, is it really?
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And
was it difficult to get it published initially? Did you have to shop around for a long time and push it? Or was it just like somebody read it and went, awesome, we're publishing?
I've been through a lot of rejection with publishers as well. So my publisher is more of like a hybrid kind of, you know, self-publishing and marketing. And, you know, we work together. So a lot of the ideas are mine. Like they don't change it around to suit their image per se. And like the big publishing companies, they don't do any marketing for you. So whether you're with them or whether you're with a different publisher, you have to do your own.
Oh, so that's what you've been doing, your own self-marketing.
Yeah. And I mean, people would say, oh, your book is a little bit, you know, racist. I'm like, really? Your book is a little bit, you know, childish, or your book only focuses on women. Once you find your niche market, who cares about what anyone else thinks?
I was going to ask you, how do you cope with criticism about your books or your writing?
I mean, I've had it my whole life. So it's so easy.
Right.
I mean, okay, I'm not going to lie. It gets easier as you move along in your life. I mean, I'm 42 and I keep getting reminded that I might just have another 40 left. If I'm halfway through the timeline of my life, and time is our biggest commodity, why the hell am I going to waste time listening to the naysayers? I might as well be embracing the people who love me. And the naysayers can say what they want. It's okay. And the people who love me embrace me, and you go towards that. It's like going towards the light without sounding so cliche.
Just ignore or don't read or just take it with a pinch of salt or all of that.
Yeah, all of it.
Right.
And I just opened up my company a month ago, which is called the Author's Office. So I help aspiring young writers, mentor them, and get them on the road towards getting published.
Oh, great.
So I have a team that works with me, 5 people. And so, you know, leaving one thing and thinking, oh my gosh, I had people I could work with, it's happening again. So there is also a lawyer on board. So I pass everything and they're like, oh, this person is whatever. Don't even look at it.
Right.
Just keep moving forward. And the more you move forward, the naysayers have nothing more to say, because what else are they going to say?
And it's usually a reflection of something negative in their own lives
Exactly.
anyway, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you have to feel sorry for people like that, but just don't pay them any attention.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for that advice. I'm going to take that on board. That's brilliant that you mentor young writers. If somebody out there listening, their ambition is to be a writer and would like to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
They can check out my website, which is www.thecappuccinochronicles.com, and look out for the top banner, which has the author's office on it. And if you click on that, send us an email. And what happens is it comes into our office and we look at it and then we assess it and we give them a free 30-minute consultation call. And we look at because we custom make it for everyone, like each writer is different. I'm also thinking about writing a children's book. So, each person has their own story. And then what we do is we create a package for them to help them move forward. We have a 1-month package, a 3-month, and a 6-month.
And that's to help them write their book?
Publish, write, design, everything.
What if somebody comes to you kind of with the raw version of their book, like they've written it, but it needs to be edited and then published?
Yep, we'll take it on. It's going to be our baby, and we'll take it on and we'll help you soar. And because we have so much of the marketing part down, we're like a one-stop shop kind of thing. Like I said, I've been through so much rejection and so much research that, finally, with the team, we also have a researcher on our team. We have the formula to do 3 books within a year.
Clearly, you have the formula. I'm so impressed. That's brilliant.
And people ask, how do you know that? I'm like, because we just been through it. Or we know it because we see so many new and upcoming writers and authors going down the wrong path. And we're like, uh-oh. And we try to pull them in. But you have to be committed to joining the author's office. Because it's not just a mentorship. It's also editing, design, looking at different publishers, how to write a proposal letter, looking at the big 5 companies, looking at self-publishing. What is your goal? Somebody said, I want to make $1 million US. Well, it's not going to happen in 6 months. It's a process. So we guide people through the process.
What sort of money would you be looking at to self-publish a book? Approximately.
I think you'd be looking at around it is an investment in yourself. I would say about $2,000-3,000 US. Which is reasonable, because if you make it, you're going to make that back in no time. And the more you keep going, that $2,000-3,000 becomes $20,000 and $30,000. It's a good business if you know what you're doing. Because so many writers get published and then you never hear about them again because they don't keep moving forward with promoting their book. Because what you need is sales of books as well.
And sales and marketing, the product is so important.
Exactly.
You can't just write it and then hope it will sell itself, because there's so many books out there.
Exactly. Yeah. And publishers get thousands of books and manuscripts on their desk every day. So when they see something that appeals to them, whether it's the title or your name or the color of the book, there's some visual aspect of it as well in your manuscript that they're looking for.
And if somebody sent you a manuscript, if you saw something that you thought was a winner, a massive winner, would you then say, we want to publish you?
Oh, yeah.
And, even offer them money to publish their book?
I would endorse them.
Right.
I would be like, yes, we want to be part of your journey because we leverage each other. And this is what it is in the author world. When you get into this niche of authors, the inspiration is boundless.
This is the same in podcasting. I can't tell you how supported I've been by Hong Kong podcasters and globally. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Once you join in with some area of interest that you're passionate about, you'll find a whole community that bolsters you up and gives you support. It's incredible, isn't it?
It is true.
Yeah. I would never have guessed that it was so prolific.
Mm-hmm. That's a perfect word for it. Because, you don't go to a bar or restaurant and meet another author. You don't, hey, are you an author? Let me buy you a drink. You know what I mean? It's a community, like for you in the podcast. It's people doing what you're doing and want to move forward. And the endorsements that I've got endorsements from, former anchor of CNN and CNBC. I've got endorsed from a New York Times bestseller, an international bestseller.
Wow. And how do you get that? Do you pitch for that? Or do they happen to, I guess you do really, don't you? They're not going to randomly read your book.
You have to, it's all connections as well.
It is.
And the marketing part, I have to emphasize this, the marketing part of your book is a big chunk of how you can get sales and how you can get your name out there.
Yeah. And it's a whole new world with social
Yeah.
media now. You know, you
Mhm.
try marketing a book 15 years ago compared to now.
Yeah.
We're spoiled.
Yes.
You know, aren't we?
I
With
love
our
it.
opportunities for marketing.
Yeah.
And if you're good at it, that is so interesting. And I want to talk more to you about a book I've written afterwards. Yeah. Oh, my God. That's why I'm so I'm just taking the listeners on a whole, like, for me.
I love it.
That was all for me. Right. Tell me about Mocha Madness. What's that about?
Okay, so it's the Cappuccino Chronicles, because it's a chronicle, so I mean, it doesn't end at one. Mocha Madness is the second part of the installment. So you follow the journey of the characters in the second installment.
Oh, great. Same characters.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
And the last one is called Endless Espressos. So it's a trilogy where you follow these characters from a very young age until they're a bit older. And again, simple spiritual truths that they're very simple, you know, that they're learning through the ages. But of course, there are always forks in the road. No one's perfect. So they're taking you again on their journey. And Mocha Madness, I call this my middle child book, is madness because the characters are at that age where they're figuring things out. And it's like, whoa, what's happening? Whereas the Cappuccino Chronicles more of young, fun-loving, you know, they're younger, they're trying to discover things. And you think that by the time they get to Mocha Madness, they'd be a little clearer.
Sometimes we never grow up.
Yeah, right. And Endless Espressos, I'm pretty much almost done, but there's a bit of storyboarding and stuff that I need to get done. I'm having a bit of separation anxiety because I know that's the last part of the trilogy. And I've fallen in love with all of these characters. They're a part of me. And I'm trying to look for somebody to, you know, take it on as maybe a blog series or something like that.
Oh, I was wondering. I was going to ask you whether you pitched it as a film.
I would love to.
Like Sex in the City.
I would love to.
Yeah.
A lot of people have said that.
Yeah.
But even the title, you know, is catchy, the Cappuccino Chronicles. You know, I can see the opening scene with the girls sitting at the coffee shop, you know. And I mean, these are things that you manifest. And if I really want it, hopefully I can get it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's amazing what you can get.
Yeah.
You know, it just keeps coming at me. And it's just like,
Yeah.
what? Where do you go from here once Endless Espressos is finished?
I actually have another book coming out called Am I the One? And that's 9 short stories from 9 parts of the globe. So I'm honing in on culture and spirituality, but it's still fun. It's still like my author's voice.
Fiction or non-fiction?
It's fiction, so it's still, again, story. And I would like to write a children's book called What is a Goopsie? Who's My Dog? And he's a little pug. And a Goopsie is kind of like a pet name that we came up with for somebody who acts silly all the time. So, like in our household, you know, I'll stop being a goopsie, you know.
Oh, that's cute. Isn't that cute?
Yeah. And so my children's book is about him and how he's going to help children not be a goopsie because he is a goopsie.
Oh, that's so cute.
So I've got 2 more books in the pipeline, 2 totally different from the Cappuccino Chronicles. I'm excited about the children's book, actually, because it's something that I never thought about until I helped another author with the launching of her children's book.
Oh, brilliant.
Anna Manuel.
Oh, fantastic.
The name of her book is Leo's Pet Bug. And she self-published her book as well. And we use the illustrator on our team. He's amazing to do the pictures. So I already have people in place that can help me do that.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, good luck with all of it. Now, do you feel like you know, I would worry about being isolated and having to sit down and think, right, I've got to write for 4 hours. But then I guess I think, oh, well, I've got to edit for 10 hours. Do you know what I mean? Like, is it a chore sometimes?
No, because what I've done is I've made writing a part of my life, like eating or, you know, drinking water or, you know, breathing. And now that I'm not at school, the time is my biggest commodity and I'm using it to the best of my ability. Of course, I have 2 children and they need me for volleyball and basketball and drama club and blah, and they're on 2 different campuses. So being a mom, you know, like, you know how it is as a mom, it's, you know, you're like spread thin sometimes. But what I do is I siphon off time every single day to write because that's my job.
Right.
And I make it my job. And now that we've launched this author's office and people are coming forward and asking us for our help, you know, I visit the office and I do the office work. And whether it's, you know, 11 o'clock at night when I get home or like 10, or whether it's like, you know, in the morning when I have time, there is time for writing every single day. And that's the biggest advice that I can give to anyone who's thinking about publishing a book. You need to focus on your writing like it's your baby.
Yeah. You've got to make it the centre of your life, don't you? Mm-hmm. And that's what I haven't done with mine. What are some of the best aspects and the worst aspects of being an author?
The best part is you get to see your imagination in print and paper, and you get to visualize. The worst part, maybe, I wouldn't say it was worse. Sometimes you do feel lonely. I mean, you do feel like even though you have a team around you, there's people cheering for you. When you're in it, when you're in the zone, you sometimes feel like you're not connected to the outside world. Especially with this third book, I'm just so connected that I don't want it to end. I've had to, I mean, it can't be a Bible, like, 3 million pages.
Ready for the grieving at the end when you finish it.
Yeah, and I'm getting ready for the editor, my senior editor, to be like, no, I mean, just the other day, threw away 8 chapters. He's like, you're rambling. He's like, let them go nicely.
How does that feel?
Oh, I mean, I've learned, this is my third book.
Okay, so I'm like, okay. With criticism?
Yeah. And the first time when it happened, I was like, no, that has to stay. And he's like, why? Words are words to be used carefully. You don't have to go on and repeat yourself. So the third book, I mean, it's going, but, I'm not going to make it like a 500-page book. I mean, nobody's going to read it just because of my separation anxiety. Yeah. So there has to be a cutoff point where, it becomes like a whole package suddenly with a trilogy.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
That's brilliant. Do you actually run writing workshops yourself?
Yes.
So do you teach people how to write?
I teach people
how to write a book or how to write nonfiction? Or
yeah, basically the workshops, we called it the art of storytelling, which was where I met a lot of my clients that I have now. And what we do is, it's not just about writing. Some people need help with writing. They need help with design. They need help with editing, visioneering, and the mentorship towards publishing. Like, what is the most lucrative place for them to publish? What category are they in? You'll be amazed that some writers are amazing writers, but they have no idea what they're doing.
Don't even know their genre.
Yeah, or they don't even know why they're writing. Like, what is the source? What is the reason? So where the team comes in and just takes the writer and cradles them and says, don't worry, we've got you.
And do you run these online or in Bangkok?
Yeah, online. I do some physical workshops, and I also do readers' theater workshops for kids, where we read children's storybooks and then we act them out and stuff.
Oh, how cute.
Because I really miss that part of my job. I really miss the theater side, and I don't want to ever lose it.
So you've got a few strings to your bow.
Yeah.
So you're not just sitting and writing.
No.
You're running these workshops. You're running this whole author's support group.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Author's office.
Author's office. And then you're doing a bit of children's theatre.
Yeah.
And so there's loads.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're really busy.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Can you give us some tips on how we can write a bestseller?
I think you have to investment in yourself first. And it's not just money. I think it's time. And really mapping out, why do you want to be a bestseller? What is the reason? And mapping out your story. Because not everybody can become a bestseller. You have to have the right connections. You have to have the right focus. And you have to have the right direction. And even now, I mean, I have mentors who still guide me. I'm not going to say that I'm, the be all and end all. Those mentors behind me still question and still push me to boundaries that I never knew existed. So and I'm trying to be a mentor, when I am mentoring people, you need a mentor yourself. So in order to become a bestseller, you need to invest in yourself. And time is the biggest one. Because you need time to do that. Nobody's going to write the book for you. I remember in an interview I did a month ago, when I was a kid, I used to leave my math homework in the temple, hoping that God would do my math homework.
That's so cute.
But that's not how it works. You have to commit to whatever you do, no matter what it is, whether it's writing, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a doctor. You can't go into the ER as a doctor one day, I don't feel like, doing that. No, you have to really hone in on your dream and go for it.
Do you ever worry about spreading yourself too thin?
Not now. I felt as a teacher, I didn't have time at all, not even for my family as much as I wanted to. And now that I've changed careers, everything is on my timings. So if I want to be in my pajamas and write for 3 days, that's up to me. Or if I need to go to an event and I need to look, really glam or whatever, that's up to me. I'm not forced to do anything that I don't want to do. But focus and discipline is really important. And it takes a lot of guidance to get there. And some of the young writers that I'm mentoring now, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at focus. And when you have that focus, don't lose it, because it's the most beautiful thing in the world.
Pashmina, that's beautiful advice. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for meeting with me today and sharing your story and your wisdom and your ideas. And there's so much here for any budding new writers who are interested in developing their skills. So, thank you for your generous sharing of your knowledge.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so wonderful. Humbled and grateful. You're going to be in my gratitude list tomorrow.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to start mine and you'll be in it too.
Thank you so much, Jules. Thank you.
Thank you, Pashmina. It's lovely to meet you.
Thank you.
Hi, Confidants. I want to tell you about my Patreon page. I've joined Patreon in the hope of getting sponsorship for my Hong Kong Confidential podcast. Patreon is a great way for my listeners to get on board and sponsor me with monthly payments, and that goes towards my production costs and rewards for my members. If you're interested in checking out my Patreon page, please go to patreon.com and search up Jules Hannaford or Hong Kong Confidential. I would really appreciate you visiting my page. So that brings us to the end of another Hong Kong Confidential podcast. I'm Jules Hannaford. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you'll be with me again next week. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please can you go to iTunes to rate and review it. I would really appreciate your feedback. You can email me at jules@hongkongconfidential.net, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Hong Kong Confidential. If you'd like to hit me up on Twitter, it's at Jules Hannaford. I would love to hear from you.